Welcome to Cracking Cooperstown, where we talk all things Baseball Hall of Fame and Hall of Fame collecting. Join us as we discuss Hall of Fame voting, autographs, cards, baseballs, resumes, and trajectories. Debate and discussion as we look to crack the code to Cooperstown. Now here's your hosts, Jake Brewer, Dom Manna.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Legends Never Die, where neither will you if you know Jesus, on the next episode of Cracking Cooperstown, as you just heard there. Shout out to our listeners, my mom, Brittany, and Eddie's Cardboard Chaos today, as we are about to jump into one of our annual exercises that we love to do here on Cracking Cooperstown, and that's talk about 40 Hall of Fame players that we are watching in today's game. Now, normally we do this during the middle of the season, but some things got in the way. We had some other stuff we wanted to record, things that we were doing. So we're doing it here at the end of the year of the MLB season after awards season. So we know who MVPs are, Cy Youngs, all that good stuff. But we wanted to switch it up a little bit from in years past of how we just go through our list of 40. So Dom, tell the people how we're going to be going through the 40 MLB players that we're watching in today's game that we believe will be Hall of Famers in the future.
Well, as all the listeners at home know, I'm an A-plus producer, so I thought of a completely original thing for us to do, and that's to do a tier list. So everybody loves a tier list. So instead of us talking through our list of 40 that don't line up one for one, we're going to try to take our lists and merge them together and agree on these tiers. So let me bring them up. Our S tier stands for slam dunk. We have qualitative over quantitative. The case is made. Solid foundation. Thank you, Billy, for a recent Hall of Fame election there. Realignment, as we will talk about and hinted at past shows. The great debate, which is still not over. And throwing darts there at the end. Jake, I'm excited to get into this with you. We can start off with the names that are truly slam dunks. They're not exciting Hall of Fame conversations. When they come up on the ballot, first ballot, me and you are going to recap their achievements, but kind of say, like, you don't want to spend too much time on this guy. Like, it's not really a question. These guys are Hall of Famers. Who is your 101 here?
These guys are pretty interchangeable. We'll go really quick here with the pitchers. I'll let you kind of place some as I call their names. You've got Justin Verlander, you've got Max Scherzer, and you've got Clayton Kershaw. Now, those three guys all going to go into the Hall of Fame. Doesn't look like they're going to be in the same class now that Kershaw's hung them up after this year. And somehow Verlander and Scherzer are still going. So maybe they'll go in the same class someday. But those triumvirate of pitchers were really easy to put in that slam dunk section. 3,000 strikeout club guys, all-time greats, easy.
All of them have 3 Cy Youngs and multiple championship rings, too. They have the hardware. Scherzer and Verlander are fighting to have the most strikeouts of the two. They really care about that number, and Verlander has all the other 2,000 pitching records pretty much, except for strikeouts. He's right there with Scherzer, so really, really interesting. They both passed Walter Johnson, so really, really impressive stuff. A forgotten guy, but still S tier in my opinion, Mike Trout.
I agree.
Already in there, in my opinion. He's got the 3 MVPs. He's got a WAR over 80. He's a fantastic player. Still think he has a chance to get 500 home runs, would be an automatic for the both of us. But I think his overall statistics, no matter where they fall, he's a slam dunk first ballot Hall of Famer. And now that we know the awards, can we put 2 more guys in this?
Can we, Dom? Can we put 2 more here?
I would argue that we can put 2 more guys. I don't know if you're just one of the 2 or both. The first one's less of a debate here, and that is Shohei Ohtani, 4th MVP, pitching at a high level again. Another World Series championship, another 50 home run season. He's going to reach my qualifiers as a hitter, along with good pitching statistics, probably going to be somewhere between a 5 and 10 time MVP when it's all said and done. It's pretty unreal that we get to watch Shohei Ohtani every day. And if we have this nonsense of people not being unanimous Hall of Fame selections the rest of the way, Shohei Ohtani will be that guy that like even those curmudgeon writers can't say no to. And the other man is someone who would have been in qualitative for quantitative if we did this during our normal time of year. But with that third MVP, I would put Aaron Judge there. I think we're talking about one of the greatest right-handed hitters of the last 25 years. And the third MVP really cemented to me that even if he doesn't hit 500 home runs, which he's on pace for, or break the rule of 2,000, which he's going to be probably short of anyway, he still will end up in the Hall of Fame.
I will add one caveat for both of them. I agree with you. I would vote for them when eligible. The caveat is the fact that Judge needs to step onto the field game one in 2026 to get that 10-year mark. And then Shohei Ohtani is still awaiting that in 2028 to be eligible under the current rules to be on the writer's ballot. You know, those 10 years of playing time, 10 different seasons. However, in the crazy scenario that Ohtani plays 2 more years, doesn't get that third one, and he falls short, this is a big deal for longtime listeners of this podcast. For us to say this, and I know Dom's going to agree, I believe the Hall would waive that minimum. It wouldn't be the first time, but I think they would waive that minimum, put Ohtani on the ballot, and he would be a Hall of Famer.
Jake, that's not a hot take at all, actually, because there's a very well-renowned Hall of Fame podcast that said that same thing. Last year, it was me on this show saying that I would put him in even if he doesn't get 10 years. He's done enough in my book. That 50-50 season ended up making him the first player since Frank Robinson in 1966 to win the MVP in both leagues. He now has 2 MVPs in both leagues. So it is unreal what we've gotten to see with Shohei Ohtani in this short period of time. And now he's back on the mound, striking out 10 and hitting 3 home runs in a playoff game. Like, are you kidding me, man? There will not be a guy that can say no, especially if the ballots continue to be not as deep as they have been in the recent years. A guy like Shohei Ohtani is a slam dunk. We're blessed to watch him, and I hope even if you're not a big modern day baseball fan, you're someone that loves the history of the game and vintage players, that you take some time to watch guys like Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge, because what they are doing is historic for any era, and the stats back it up. In the qualitative versus quantitative, the other guy who has the WAR total and the kind of hardware but doesn't have the statistics that me and you necessarily look for yet is Marcus Lynn Betts. His initials are MLB. He has 75 career WAR, became one of the best defensive right fielders, then led the league in defensive runs saved as a shortstop this season in his 30s. He's just a freak of nature. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame someday, but I don't know if it's going to be because of his home runs, hit and runs, and stolen base totals necessarily. It's going to be the whole package of the defensive value of the winning player. He now has 4 World Series rings. He has an MVP. He has a 10 WAR season. Like I said, the defensive value both in right field and now at the shortstop position. He's unreal. And he's, I think, ahead of the guys we're going to get into next, even though his statistics aren't ahead yet in terms of the counting stats.
And this category is really more about, the qualitative, but also the decorated. And I think this is where this player lands. I think you'll agree with me at a shallow position, which is Jose Altuve. I think that he falls here already. He does have 7 Silver Sluggers, and he's a 9-time All-Star. He's won 3 batting titles already. I do think he's going to cross some of these key milestones. He's 112 hits away from 2,500, a marker that Dom likes in terms of home runs. He's 45 away from 300. He's 35 years old, 1,236 runs. I think he's going to get to 1,500. I think he'll fall short of 1,500 RBIs, but he'll get to 1,000. He's got 889, and he does have over 300 stolen bases with 325. And by the time that he hits the ballot, in my opinion, the controversy with the trash can thing with the Astros will be over because Beltran will already have been in the Hall of Fame for years. Sneak preview, I think he's getting in this year on the writer's ballot. But I think Altuve falls in this realm, in this tier.
The reason I wouldn't put Altuve in this tier, but I'm not going to fight it because I'll win some battles later, is because of the WAR total. He's not going to end his career with 70, 80, 90 WAR. He's right now, I believe, at 52. So he's going to be somewhere in that 60 range, which is where it starts to matter for me. So he will be a qualitative candidate of sorts. But where he really lands is he's someone that has a chance still to hit 3,000 hits. He has the batting titles. The 300 home runs and 300 stolen bases, while they don't matter to you individually, that combination is extremely rare. Only 9 players in the history of the game, Carlos Beltran is one of them, has 300 home runs and 300 stolen bases. There's a couple guys we'll talk about later that are also on pace to hit those numbers, but it's still rare air. So having the MVP, having the championships, having the playoff resume that he has, both before and after the trash can scandal. I think winning that 2022 World Series championship after they had gotten that monkey off of their back of the cheating was huge for all of those guys that were able to be on that 2022 team to kind of say, hey, we are playoff winners regardless of those kind of things. So Altuve, to me, he's the case is already made for him. He's just trying to tack on and make it where there's no doubt for the guys that are going to hold the trash cans against them.
When, to be fair, I am defining qualitative as both qualitative statistics in terms of, more average slugging on base, etc., but also qualitative in kind of, I don't want to say lumping in there, but also including the awards as a part of qualitative instead of just quantitative for the purpose of this tier. You can make an argument to place him somewhere else for that reason. Betts is also very decorated.
Yes, Betts is very decorated. There's no arguing there. The case is made. I'm going to just throw guys up there, and if you have a problem with any of them, we can talk. To me, your boy Frederick Freeman, the case is made. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Nolan Arenado, 10 gold gloves, straight to open his career. He's fallen off on the offensive numbers, but still going to be well above the Hall of Fame line. Bryce Harper, 2-time MVP, well on pace for 500 home runs. Just a really, really great player. You are proud of me for how I've looked at Manny Machado going forward. Manny Machado, I think, is becoming the favorite to be the next guy for 3,000 hits. I still would pick Altuve over him right now, but that could shift very easily over the next couple years. And then the last guy I would group in there is Goldschmidt, because I don't think there's really anything major that he's going to do the rest of the way. I think the Hall of Fame case for him is made. I think that MVP looms large, and him having 300 plus homers and well over 1,000 RBIs, 1,000 runs scored with the MVP, with the WAR total. He's a very good base runner for a first baseman, good defender. I think those 5 guys are going to be in Cooperstown. Maybe not first ballot, but the case has already been made for them. They're well over halfway to there, if not 80% in some of these guys' cases.
I'm in agreement with all of those guys. Machado is my favorite for 3,000 hits. I will tack on that Freddie is the leader in multiple counting statistics right now as an elder statesman in the game of baseball, which is just hard to believe, seeing him come in as a rookie years ago and now well over a decade into his career, seeing him be one of the elder statesmen of the game, headed towards an all-time great potentially in terms of counting stats, outside shot at 3,000, a slim chance at 500. But we'll see where he lands. World Series hero multiple times now. Big time player, definitely there. I echo what you said about Arenado, Harper, and those guys. Now, this is where I may try and put a couple in the cases already made that you might not agree with. And if you're a fan of the show, you know where Dom and I disagree on pitchers. And I've got a pair here that I'm going to talk about that I think should be here. Their names are Garrett Cole and Chris Sale. And the reason that I believe they should be there, when Cole returns this year, he's already got over 150 wins. He's got 153. And he is 249 strikeouts away from 2,500, which, he may not accomplish this year, but should definitely accomplish within 2 seasons. He's got a Cy Young, 2 pitching titles. I think he deserves to be here. Chris Sale, in some ways, is ahead of him. In some ways, is slightly behind. He's got 145 wins, just 5 away from that 150 number for me. He's got 2,579 strikeouts, already over the 2,500 mark, and an outside shot at 3,000 if he stayed really healthy, played really, really well here late in his 30s, pitching for the Braves. He's also a 9-time All-Star and had a pitching triple crown to go along with that late career Cy Young that he had that really made a difference that first year in Atlanta. Now, I think that that the case has been made in terms of this generation of pitcher, sans the 3 there at the slam dunk tier. What do you think of Garrett Cole and Chris Sale, Dom?
Garrett Cole was the only starting pitcher on my list last year after the big 4, which is now a big 3 in our slam dunk tier. To me, Garrett Cole has a solid foundation, and with the way pitchers are projecting, I think you can make the argument that even with the missed time the last 2 years and potentially start of 2026, he's probably not going to be ready for the first couple of months, that he is teetering on these 2. I'm fine with putting Chris Sale here, and he jumped way from off my board to onto my list of 40 because of 2024. I think me and you both agreed that he would be good when on the mound, but for him to make all his starts, win the Cy Young and the Triple Crown, that was like the 1% outcome. Like that was not a super expected thing. I'm happy for him. He's a great player. I've loved watching him pitch. He helped the Red Sox win their latest championship in 2018. And I do think as we realign how the Hall of Fame looks at starting pitchers going forward, he's going to have a real case. And the kind of the same argument for Sale that I have for Goldschmidt is I don't think there's really anything he can do sans 3,000 strikeouts the rest of the way where it's going to really change his Hall of Fame case. Because if he falls short of 3,000 strikeouts, like Goldschmidt ended up falling short of 500 home runs, it doesn't make him a slam dunk, but he could still be a strong Hall of Fame candidate. With Garrett Cole, I'm a little bit more worried now. Like, he does have that Cy Young in his back pocket. He does have, like you said, closing on 2,500 strikeouts if he doesn't get the 3,000. I'm just a little worried about him going forward, but you could say the same thing about Chris Sale when he was 35 years old. So I'm not going to argue too heavily on them. I think there's some pitchers that made your 40 later on that are a lot more egregious. So I'm going to show some respect to these 2 guys as the clear next 2 after the big 3. In terms of solid foundation, I think there's some guys that have really built up this case where they're not quite at the Freeman, Machado, Arenado tier where they're all the way there, where I think they could get votes today, but they are tracking extremely well. And that is Jose Ramirez, that is Francisco Lindor, and of course, how could you not say that Juan Soto at this point has a solid foundation with that locked-in contract? He went 30-30 this year, too, for the first time, stole 30 bases. He's one of the most impressive hitters in the game, and I think his foundation is extremely strong. I think he'll be in that qualitative over quantitative zone sooner rather than later. But Ramirez and Lindor, switch hitting, do-it-all guys, both on pace for that 300 club we were talking about, which is rare air in baseball. I think if you just talk about the difference in eras, there's a lot of people that watch our program that are fans of the old school baseball. The biggest difference, I would say, between the old school of thought in baseball and today's baseball is that the best players on teams aren't the big towering sluggers necessarily anymore. They're guys that are a little bit more well-rounded. And Jose Ramirez and Francisco Lindor are great examples of that. They're do-it-all guys. They're not super imposing sluggers, but they can hit for power. They can hit for average. They play the field. They steal bases, all those things, the baseball IQ, the leadership. Those three guys to me are solid foundation. There's some other guys that with my metrics, which are lower than yours, I would also put in here. But I know you have some reservations on them in terms of the word solid. So is there anyone else that I could get to put in here out of Andrew McCutchen, out of Corey Seager, out of Trey Turner? Can I convince you to put any of those names in solid foundation? Because I think all of them really do have a solid foundation compared to the guys we're going to talk about later.
In my opinion, no, but you knew that already. Let's talk about Trey Turner. Okay, because for us to align closest, let's talk about him. So for me, my perspective of Trey Turner, I wouldn't quite put him in solid foundation, but let's give a little context here of old Trey. So he's got 1,531 hits. All right, he is on pace to potentially cross that 2,500 mark, which would be something for me. 315 stolen bases, also on pace to crack 500. That would make him a future Hall of Famer for me right there alone. Also of note for him, which I think is very significant, with him adding on his second batting title, I think that's going to matter for his makeup and his profile as a potential Hall of Famer as a non-power hitting type, kind of to Dom's point, because he's got 186 home runs. You know, he's not on pace to even get to 400. 870 runs, 641 RBIs. He's not going to hit a lot of those. He's a 3-time All-Star and a 1-time Silver Slugger. Now, I like Trey Turner. I like his style of play. I like stolen bases. I like his swagger. I wouldn't quite put him in solid foundation, but he is on track for 2 counting statistics. And if he somehow snags a 3rd batting title, that's to me going to vault him into a different level. Like if we're sitting here next year and he just stays on pace where he's at with the other stuff, but he adds a 3rd batting title, I'm like, yeah, put him in solid foundation.
And he's right there for 1,000 runs scored. He's going to have a lot of runs scored, hitting at the top of the lineup with his speed. The 300 thing is just as real for him, in my opinion, as it is for Lindor and Ramirez. So to me, he's on that level. And the fact that you at least agreed with me the most on him, I'm going to sneak him in there because I want Trey Turner to get his respect as a future Hall of Famer the way Ramirez and Lindor are starting to get, because I don't think he's that far off of those guys in terms of the overall baseball player. And I think that getting that 2nd batting title is starting to put some people on notice. But he really is a truly great, well-rounded player. And I don't think Ramirez and Lindor necessarily are going to be slam dunk first ballot guys pushing for unanimous status. But Trey Turner, compared to Corey Seager, who's had injury problems, or Xander Bogaerts, who has declined significantly and is not a great defender or base runner, I think he has separated himself a little bit from those guys as that next shortstop after Lindor. So I will give Trey Turner his respect here and take this as one of my wins since I gave you a few earlier.
I will concede that I agree that Turner's a notch above those guys. But for context, I also don't want us to shortchange Jose Ramirez and Francisco Lindor. So just as a quick addition on the 300 thing. So for Jose Ramirez, he's 15 homers and 13 stolen bases away from being 300. Excuse me.
This year.
And he's only a year older than Turner. So like I was saying, Jose is just 1 year older than Turner, and he's right there on hitting 300. Like, he's going to do that this season. And then in terms of Lindor, he's close on homers, but not on stolen bases. So Lindor's just 21 homers off that 300 number. He's still a little farther away with stolen bases, 84 away from 300. But he is a little bit less than a year, younger than Trey Turner. So I just don't want us to not give adequate respect to how great those two guys are. Like, not taken away from Turner, but like, I think Ramirez and Lindor still are. That's why I put Turner a notch below and them a notch above.
So I have this insane thing that I do as a Hall of Fame prospector that many people can't seem to do. I don't have to tear down another worthy candidate to praise another. So I am not saying that Lindor and Ramirez aren't great, that they aren't on this path. I'm just trying to show people that while Turner lacks a little bit in the power category, like Lindor lacks a little bit in the speed category, with the contracts that they currently have and the talents that they possess, they're all on pace to be in that 300 world. Wherever they finish in terms of hits and runs and RBIs and accolades, individual awards and stuff, is yet to be seen. But Lindor and Ramirez don't have multiple batting titles. Neither one of them have a championship ring. So there's things that make Trey Turner, I think, just as compelling of a case. But even if you look at his rookie cards and autographs, he's not priced like a Lindor.
He's not.
He's not. So I just wanted to give Trey Turner some love. And since he was the guy out of those three names I threw out there you agreed with the most, I'm taking the win and putting him in solid foundation. Now, when it comes to thank you, Billy, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Lou Rock TV's favorite Hall of Famer, Billy Wagner, got into the Hall of Fame. And we always kind of had it in our accolades that 500 saves was the number. But to be fair, before Mariano Rivera and Trevor Hoffman came along, the two guys that they named the best reliever in each league award after, 500 saves wasn't even a club. It wasn't a thing. 478 was Lee Smith, the all-time record holder. So for Billy Wagner to get in with over 400 saves and over 1,000 strikeouts, only 14 relief pitchers in the history of baseball have 1,000 Ks, and only 9 so far have 400 saves. These guys, Jansen and Kimbrel, are already there. And with his resurgence here in his late 30s in Boston, Aroldis Chapman, who's been on my list the last 2 years, I think got a huge bump up with the 2-year extension to stay in the Boston situation where he found success. He pitched meaningful innings. He was dominant. And something that's on his side, as well as Kimbrel and Chapman, is none of them have missed extended time throughout their careers, like a lot of the starting pitchers that we talked about over this exercise the last couple of years. They're out there, they're producing, and with Chapman being in this saved role, I think he has a fantastic chance of joining Jansen, Kimbrel, and Billy Wagner in the Hall of Fame. I think that you can't compare his numbers and be like he doesn't belong. Chapman's currently at 367. So for him to get there over the next 2 years in Boston, he needs to save 33 more games. He just saved 28 this season. 32, excuse me. So he could get there in 1 year, but the 2, I think, makes him a lock to get there.
And I do think they're in the appropriate order there, with Jansen being the closest to 500 saves. Kimbrel, who's not currently in a closer situation, kind of there in the middle at 440. And then you've got Chapman there as the third one. While he has the least amount of saves, hasn't cracked 400 yet, he may be in the best closing situation of the three currently. So I do think he should be in this tier. But I think these are three very key guys in terms of a future Hall of Fame candidate in terms of the relief pitcher. I think we're coming on a little bit of a revolution of that wing of the Hall, if you will, expanding a little.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying expand it for everyone, but there's only 9 relief pitchers with 400 saves. There's only 14 relief pitchers with 1,000 strikeouts. The ones that have both, there's currently 7. So those are the elite of the elite, in my opinion, where you add the strikeout ability with the saving games. It's a really tough position year to year to have that success over time to get either of those numbers, let alone both. And Billy Wagner's election not only helps these 3, but also has turned my corner on Francisco Rodriguez, K-Rod, on the Hall of Fame ballot. I think that those guys being in those 2 classes, it really, really helps and makes a compelling case, because you're not going to just say there's underrepresentation in the relief pitcher market. Let's put all these guys in that have 300 saves and 800 strikeouts. No, they fall short in both these categories tremendously. But when you have those 2 big things, which is what you look for in a closer, you look for them to be able to close out baseball games, and you look for them to be able to miss bats, because you don't want base runners in a save situation. So those 2 skills are extremely valuable. And I added the 1,000 strikeouts as a qualifier for my thing years ago, but now that combination to me makes you a lock in the reliever world. Even if it's not first ballot, like Billy Wagner had to wait all 10 years, I think those guys are all going to get in. The only problem they're probably going to have is being on the ballot together. That'll probably be their biggest hurdle, is gaining support.
Yeah, this trio could revolutionize what it looks like for this position, thanks to Billy.
Thank
but now
you,
this next category is one that Dom and I have talked a lot about offline, and it's more of a turning of the page for Dom than it is for me in this category. So I'm going to let him take the floor and explain kind of where his perspective, his viewpoint may have shifted a little bit in terms of especially a Hall of Fame hitter.
So, not to completely spoil our upcoming 2026 BBWA ballot video, but if you look at it, last year, there was only 1 hitter on the ballot with over 2,000 hits, breaking the rule of 2,000. Ichiro Suzuki had over 3,000 hits. He got in first ballot. This year, there's only 1 newcomer with over 2,000 hits. It's Nick Markakis with 2,300. The rule of 2,000 has been a real thing for the baseball writers since the expansion in 1969. There has not been a hitter elected by the baseball writers with under 2,000 hits. Now, obviously, there's 2 guys, one me and Jake believe in, and Andrew Jones, and one me and Jake don't believe in, and Chase Utley, that have been getting real support with under 2,000 hits from the writers. But I still think overall that rule will win out. And when you look at these guys, 2,000 hits is going to be a big deal. The guys who have 3,000 are obviously locks, but getting to 2,000, I think, is the most important qualifier out of mine being a bigger haul guy. Because getting the 1,000 runs, 1,000 RBIs, 300 home runs, those things also matter. But the 2,000 hits, that brown number, I think, can be the difference between staying on the ballot or falling off in future years, because it'll really make them stand out. So that's where I think a guy like Andrew McCutchen, having over 2,000 hits, having an MVP, is going to be someone that years ago would have been looked at as a good player that's probably an era guy to a guy that should get real baseball writer support. There's some other guys that we just talked about, Xander Bogaerts and Corey Seager, who I think if those guys can get over 2,000 hits with well-rounded numbers outside of it, they'll have real cases for the Hall of Fame. And I think that the realignment goes even further than that, because when you're talking about a guy with 2,000 hit potential, I think that Christian Yelich is the biggest post-hype Hall of Fame candidate I've ever seen, because not only did he bounce back this year with a 30 home run campaign where he stole 20 bases, but he has the MVP in his back pocket. He has a pretty good WAR total. He's still a good player. If Christian Yelich can hit my milestones, which Jake thinks are too low, of 1,000 runs, 2,000 hits, 300 home runs, 1,000 RBIs, with the MVP and a good WAR total, to me, that's a really strong modern day candidate. And I think the writers are going to see that going forward, because you're seeing guys like Pedroia and David Wright get over 5%, sub 2,000 hits. If you have guys that played longer and did more than those guys on the ballot, they're at least going to hang on, if not build a case for election. So I'm really, really excited about those guys. And I'm noticing here that we probably need to add another tier because there's a group of younger guys who I would put ahead of these realignment folks. But nonetheless, like, in terms of my hitter analysis, how do you feel looking at these future eligibles and the rule of 2000? Do you think Chase Utley and Andrew Jones open the floodgates, or do you think that rule is still going to hold a lot of weight?
Let's hope this Chase Utley doesn't do anything, but, we'll see. In terms of your realignment, I do think that there is going to be a bit of a shift to what I would call borderline Hall of Famers, that I think some of these guys, hear me out, that may have traditionally been viewed as borderline candidates, that in the coming generation are going to get in because of the difference between them and their peers. They're going to be a slightly higher achievement than those. So, like, you've already talked about McCutchen. I think him and Goldschmidt, to me, are like this. They're both just missing counting stats. They both have MVPs. They both have some awards and some things in their trophy cabinet. Traditional, for me, where my line in the sand is right now, they're just missed. But either one of them getting in, I'm not, like, upset, right, if McCutchen or Goldschmidt get in. I think they're in this category. I actually also agree with you completely on Christian Yelich, who quietly had a great year to put himself back in this realm of argument where he had kind of fallen off track, and now he's trending back the other way. The one I don't, and Bogarts, side note on him, probably similar light of a McCutchen or a Goldschmidt. The difference is he's got a lot more left on his rope. He's 32. He's not 38. Okay. Now, Dom, before he even says anything, thinks that he's going to just nosedive and he's not going to even make it to 38. But in theory, if he continues to play that long, I think he's going to wind up in their realm or maybe slightly above it in terms of counting numbers. The name that I disagree with is Seager is not on my list. Seager's not on my list at all. I don't think he's going to put enough together. Too injury prone. Like, I think he's going to end up being flash in the pan. Just not enough.
I think that there's a lot to say there. Goldschmidt has 8 or 9 more wins above replacement than Andrew McCutchen, with significantly less games played at first base, which is a harder position to accumulate WAR. I don't think that they're in the same conversation necessarily, or that Goldschmidt should be this low. If anything, I would lift McCutchen up to that at the end of that tier, if anything. But Bogarts will never be a McCutchen, Goldschmidt, or even a Yelich type candidate, because his peak value was never an MVP candidate. It was never a guy with that hardware in his back pocket. So the reason I have Bogarts and Corey Seager here is because they're not going to hit the traditional milestones that you look for. But in this modern era, with the contracts they've signed and the moments they've had and accolades they've won, I do think they're going to be strong Hall of Fame candidates when it's all said and done. Corey Seager is one of the best playoff performers we've ever seen. And the fact that he is still on pace for my metrics, I think, is part of that realignment. It's seeing guys like Chase Utley and Dustin Pedroia and David Wright get actual consideration by the writers when years ago they would have been one and done. And seeing a guy like Corey Seager as someone who could be in that mold, if not even better, if he can break the rule of 2,000. Now, his health is yet to be seen if he can do that, but even when he misses 40, 50 games in a season, his WAR total is still 5.6. He hits 300 with 30 home runs. Like he's insane in a per game basis, where even if he misses time, which he's going to miss some time the rest of the way, I still think he can be a realignment as a new age candidate. It's just in a different light than a McCutchen or a Yelich is.
But you're comping Seager to guys that didn't sniff the Hall of Fame. Like, not even close. Not even close. Like, yeah, they stayed on the ballot for more than a year, but, like, Pedroia's not making the Hall of Fame, dog. Like, if Seager's...
I'm betting on someone that has that rope that Pedroia and Wright had pulled from them. I'm betting on him to build off of what Pedroia and Wright had and finish to whatever this realigned line is.
He's 31. He's behind and injury prone. I mean, I get it. You're betting on he's going to do it, and I'm betting on he's not going to do it. I get it. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying the comp is a guy that wasn't close.
I don't think there's 40 active guys that have a better chance of getting Baseball Writers of Association of America Hall of Fame consideration than Corey Seager. I think that's just wrong.
My biggest argument here is, like, if you want to throw Seager on your 40, okay. My biggest argument is I don't think he should be in the same tier level as some of these other guys, when I think even you wouldn't put him in the same realm as a McCutchen or a Goldschmidt. Granted, I put McCutchen and Goldschmidt in the same one and you don't. But I think Seager to me is a throwing darts, not – I know your reason for why he's a throwing dart is he's going to hit the realignment. Like, I get it.
Yeah, that's what's great about this tier is this tier is really where our differing Hall of Fame things have the room to grow. There's always room in debate, and realignment can mean multiple different things. If you think that realignment just means they're going to change one thing with how they look at the Hall of Fame, that's not what we're saying. We're talking about how different the modern game has been on impacting statistics, that these writers are going to have to adjust based on their era, because that's who they're going to be up against on the ballot, is their peers in their era who played in their situation and resulted in X amount of hits, X amount of home runs, X amount of wins, X amount of strikeouts. So there's a few pitchers that you want to talk about here that I don't think are on Corey Seager's level, but I'm going to give you the time to talk about why you think that they are realigned pitching candidates.
That's fair. In the middle of it, though, I'm going to throw a name that I don't know if we should put in realignment. I think he may go somewhere else. Where do we put Salvador Perez? Mm-hmm. Is he a realignment because of the change in the catching position? Is he this category? I think
he absolutely is. He's someone that's right there for getting my vote in terms of accolades, more so than statistics, in terms of the Gold Gloves, Silver Sluggers with the home runs. At the catcher position, I think he's a great realignment candidate. We talked about the future of the Hall of Fame catcher position. I was going to segue that after the pitchers because I'm not happy with your pitcher picks here to try to get us back on track to a place we agree. But I agree, Salvador Perez is also a realignment candidate, just a different situation as catchers tend to be.
All right, fair enough. I won't disagree with anything in Perez. We're on the same page for 10 more seconds. In terms of pitchers, guys that I've quoted this statistic before, I'm going to talk about them quickly. I think that with pitchers, there's going to be a shift in what makes a Hall of Fame pitcher. I've talked about it. Go watch our episode on what makes a Hall of Fame pitcher. But I think that 150 win mark and that 2,500 strikeout mark, especially in terms of the win, is going to be a new line in the sand. And that puts two guys in here. That is Aaron Nola, who has 109 wins, 1,876 strikeouts. It also, surprisingly somewhat, puts Jose Barrios in this category as well. He's a year younger than Nola, has one less win at 108. He does have about 400 less strikeouts at 1,481. Nonetheless, he's still on pace for both. Both now playing for good franchises, who in theory should give them opportunities for a lot of wins as long as they remain healthy and in those rotations. So Dom's going to make the argument that obviously that I'm crazy and they shouldn't be here. And he could say that these are more throwing darts candidates, kind of to my point about his hitters, right? I say they're throwing darts, but Dom says a realignment. Now I'm saying these pitchers are realignment, and I'm guessing, Dom, you're going to say they're throwing darts.
If you wanted to, because you also have Skubal and Skeens on your list, people have seen them down below. If you wanted to make the case for them as the realignment because of the peaks that they're having, I could see it. Because if they have the peaks if they have continued peaks from where they are, and then they hit around your new metrics, I think they could be new age Hall of Fame pitcher candidates. But even if Nola or Berrios hit your numbers, I don't think they're going to get real Hall of Fame support. Mark Burley, who's a guy you're a big fan of, doesn't get real Hall of Fame consideration from the writers. He barely hangs on. And he has a good WAR total as well, over 60. These guys are not on pace to have a WAR over 60, to go along with the fact that they're not guys that have multiple top 3 Cy Young finishes. Jose Berrios is someone who faded hard at the end of last season. Aaron Nola has not been himself the last 2 years. I think having guys like this on your ballot, I understand you're trying to enforce your new metrics, but they're not going to get more support than Corey Seager, who fell off your list to make room for Jose Berrios this year. I just don't see those guys getting Hall of Fame consideration unless on their way to your metrics, one of them has a Cy Young year, which neither one of them are trending towards right now. But that's just my 2 cents on the pitcher position.
Don't bash my boy Burley. He was within 4 votes of Pedroia.
Yeah, he was.
And to your point about bringing up Skubal and Skeens, right, in terms of realignment, saying they're a decorated peak pitcher, which definitely would be their case, I think, especially in terms of Skubal. Those guys, to me, I put in throwing darts because I think they got to hit some more fancy hardware, which isn't outside the possibilities within reason. But you're talking, you got to finish the best to get a Cy Young. You got to finish the best to get a pitching title. You got to finish incredibly the best in multiple categories to get a triple crown. Could they do it again? Yeah, they could. Could they also come in second and third a bunch of times and not do it? Yes. Relating them to Chris Sale, right? Like Chris Sale, solid numbers. He might fall off. Bang! Cy Young totally flips the script, right? Now, Skeens and Skubal, however, at the beginning have won some hardware. Skubal started too late. He's off pace. Skeens is barely on pace because he plays for the awful Pirates, right? So they're both going to be in a hardware needed situation. So it's are you more confident in peak and qualitative and hitting some of the hardware, or longevity hitting, right? It's that whole thing.
Give me the bird, or in this case, the Cy Young in the hand, because I'm more confident that even if they don't win more Cy Youngs, that their peak and coast into their eventual decline is more likely and of Hall of Fame consideration than Nola or Berrios hitting that bam Cy Young that Chris Sale just had. And Chris Sale's good was above these guys' level good to begin with. So to me, I'd be way more comfortable putting them in realignment than this, but because of your feelings, we're going to throw them there just because there's not really another place to put them. I added a tier here that I think we kind of forgot about. Major milestone pace. So there's some guys like Giancarlo Stanton, who it's all about 500 home runs. There's guys on your, I believe you also have Alonso on your board for the same reason. I added both Matt Olson and Kyle Schwarber to my list for the same reason. 500 home runs, they're on pace for it. If they get it, it's going to be hard for them to be kept out of the Hall of Fame, I think, with the cloud of clean being over them. The major milestone pace also kind of leads to some of these guys that are past the throwing dart stage and are on pace to have 3,000 hits or 500 home runs or the milestones that we look for. So that would be guys like Ronald Acuna Jr., Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Rafael Devers. And you can make the argument that Bobby Witt Jr. and Julio Rodriguez and Gunnar Henderson have enough, but you could also say that it's early enough where you're still throwing the dart on them continuing that pace. So that's kind of where I am with the milestone chase, because I think Devers, Guerrero, and Acuna are all kind of shown to have that upper tier MLB production and pace for the milestones we look for Hall of Fame election. But it's about keeping that pace towards those goals for them to move up to safer tiers or to just get elected from one singular statistic or achievement. Do you have anything to add about any of those guys there?
Ironically, as a Braves fan, I don't think Olsen does it. Like, he's the one guy in that tier that I don't have on my list. Well, I don't have Schwarber either, but I'd bank on Schwarber before Olsen, which is kind of funny.
So the interesting thing about that is a lot of people have put Kyle Schwarber after his 54 home run season this year and MVP runner-up season. A lot of people have put Schwarber on the Hall of Fame map for 500 home runs. Stanton and Alonso were already on a lot of people's board. Judge was also one of these candidates before he put together an all-time peak to go along with the 500 home run pace. Olsen, though, his 53 home run season was 2 years ago in 2023. And he's also kind of like Yelich, where it's a post-hype thing. Matt Olsen plays every single day. He goes out there, he hits 30-plus home runs. He, because of availability, one of the most important abilities out there, I think is Stanton's way too close for me to say he's a safer bet than Stanton. But I would argue he's a safer bet than both Alonso and Schwarber, just in terms of the games played and the swing approach that he has. It's home run heavy. And then the fact that he plays every day at a high defensive level, his WAR is significantly higher than Alonso and Schwarber's, playing Gold Glove caliber defense at first base, which, if he somehow falls short of 500, might still keep him on the writer's ballot, where if Alonso or Schwarber fall short and their WAR is in the 20s, Olsen's WAR is already in the 30s, he's going to finish in the 40s or the 50s. I think that could be the difference between Olsen getting baseball writer support and Alonso or Schwarber falling one and done off the ballot. So Olsen, to me, is very, very safe, and someone that I added to my list this year just because after the 53 home run season, he didn't completely fall off a cliff. He kept showing up every day and producing. And if you're going to put Schwarber up there, I think you got to put Olsen as well as a guy on pace for 500.
I will say at this point, he's more decorated than Schwarber, with the Gold Gloves, with the All-Star appearances, that kind of thing. I guess it's a little bit of recency bias of like Olsen was nowhere near the MVP conversation, and Schwarber was this year, obviously. Whereas, Olsen had his big year a couple years ago, set the Braves franchise home run record. And maybe I'm just a little bitter based on Olsen's style of play as a fan of his team day in and day out. He's a lot of all or nothing, and that's annoying.
That's what I was talking about with the approach. It's to hit extra base hit and home runs.
True.
Like, that's what he's trying to do. And he's got a great swing for it into the chop house or into pesky pole, as me and you have talked about. I would co-sign. We've talked about this before. Alex Anthopoulos, Craig Breslow shake hands already. Jarren Duran plus whatever for Matt Olsen plus whatever. Get it done. We need a power hitting first baseman. The Braves need another outfielder they can depend on. Let's get it done. But yeah, Matt Olsen is someone who's moved way up my list as well, just because past the hype, he has continued to produce, much like Yelich has as well. He's put together multiple good seasons, including this year. to keep the pace, because it's not just about one big season, but that one big 50 home run season can really flip a career. And that's where the great debate starts, because Marcus Semien is just so good. He's so good. And I have enjoyed watching his career so much, not just because of this fun debate that we have here on Cracking Cooperstown, but because he's a truly great baseball player to watch. He also, like Matt Olson, posts. He shows up and plays. He's a good defender, which helps him rack up WAR. And he had that big season back in 2021. He hit a second base record of 46 home runs in a season. So he had that big season to help him catch up in the pace that he didn't start off with in his early career in Chicago. And since 2019 in Oakland, he has been one of the best players in the American League. Now I understand in this last year he missed 41 games and was not very good overall. His beginning of the season was putrid. He became a league average to slightly above league average hitter before his injury. He heated back up in the summer. But to me, the move that recently happened with him getting swapped for Brandon Nimmo and going to the Mets, I think that only helps him, because the Rangers offense has been trending down the last couple of years overall, not just Semien. The whole offense has been trending down. And now he goes to a lineup that has two guys with a solid Hall of Fame foundation in Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto to help him score runs. Citi Field, his power numbers in Citi Field over the last 3 years, he would have hit 18 more home runs playing at Citi Field. It's a good ballpark for him to hit at. He's a pull hitter for power. I think this is the kind of change of scenery he needs to make that final push for the Rule of 2000, for a great WAR total, for all my metrics, 300 home runs, etc. He's going to get his 1,000th run next season. He's been one of my favorite players to watch. And the debate this year wasn't super fun, not just because of Semien's struggles, but because of your boy, Ozzy Albies, the lesser half of the debate. What happened this year, Jake?
He was really hot for the first 2 weeks. Then he proceeded to be absolutely terrible until the last month of the season, and he caught fire again. And some may argue that he saved his job. There was a lot of rumblings in our group chat from Dom that Ozzy was done and he was going to get traded and he wasn't a Brave. And then he had an epic last month of the season. Now, it's probably overlooked largely because the Braves were awful. They were out of the playoffs. They weren't going anywhere. But, it was loud in our group chat that Ozzy was back while Semien was broken. Sorry, Marcus. But because of that hot finish, he had a hot couple weeks and then a hot finish at the end. He did somehow manage to keep himself on pace to be on pace for 2,500 hits in his career, 1,500 runs in his career. Those two thresholds would meet two of my qualifiers and make him a future Hall of Famer. Now, he's 7 years younger than Semien, and he's about 550 hits behind, right? So in theory, on pace, again, he's on a better pace. The thing that we always talk about here is, ironically, for these two guys, Dom's more a bird in a hand, with Semien later in his career. I am more projectability here. Albies is still earlier in his career. Now, Semien moving to the Mets, I will say now they're both in good offenses, should produce more if they're both healthy and doing well, which does make our debate a lot more fun. And now they're division rivals. We're going to see them play each other a lot more. So ironically for us in the great debate, I've told Dom, we go this back and forth. He really believes in Semien. I really believe in Albies. But this is a lot of fun for us. And it's better when they're both doing well, they're both playing. That's more exciting.
Yeah, for the majority of the season before that last month, there was not much trash talking going either way in our group chat regarding this. To me, the biggest difference, though, between the two is I've said this before, because Albies got a hotter start, the year-to-year doesn't need to be as high for him to pass Simeon in hits and runs scored in RBIs by the end of his career. But the big differentiator is Marcus Simeon is a Gold Glove caliber shortstop that plays second base, and the defensive value, I don't think Albies is going to be able to catch the WAR total that Simeon ends with. And that's really, I think, going to be what helps Simeon get into the Hall of Fame. Is he's going to have my new age metrics of the rule of 2,000 and 300 home runs and 1,000 runs, 1,000 RBIs, but he's going to have that paired with a really respectable WAR total. So last year he missed 41 games, which was the most games he's missed. That was more games he's missed than in the past 7 seasons combined. 41 games. So he currently has 49.2 B WAR. He's going to end his career somewhere in the 50s. He had 3.3 WAR last year, despite hitting below league average and missing 41 games. So 3 wins seems to be kind of his floor. He has multiple seasons of 7+ wins. This is a truly great all-around player. And I'm excited to see him in a new environment. I think the change of scenery could be really good for him. And I think having a WAR total at the end of his career, he has 3 years signed on with the Mets. If he can finish his career somewhere between 50 and 60 WAR, Albies is probably going to be somewhere in the Baines meter range of the mid to late 30s, maybe crack 40 if he has a couple big seasons. So I think that'll be the real differentiator is even though Simeon got a late start and Albies has time on his side, I think that the peak value that Simeon has had as in terms of WAR and counting stats is what gives him the real leg up in this Hall of Fame debate. Now, could both these guys be Hall of Famers? Absolutely. Could both these guys have seasons like they had last year and miss? Absolutely. That's what's fun about this debate because we're debating at the margins of this 40. We're not debating in the meat of it. We're at the top of it. So it'll be really interesting to watch Mets Braves head to head. Not that I had, needed more reasons to root against the Braves, but now I have another one in my boy Marcus Simeon on the Mets. So that'll be really fun. And then we have a handful of names here at the bottom that we're going to throw into the throwing darts tier. I think that Bobby Witt Jr., Julio Rodriguez, and Gunnar Henderson are kind of the cream of the crop here. I think all 3 of them have put together 3 really good seasons in a row that could argue to put them into that milestone tier, but it's still so early. Things can happen that I think throwing darts is fair. Here are 3 guys that Jake has on his list for throwing darts. Elly De La Cruz, another speed power guy. Jackson Chourio, someone who has a lot of age on his side. And Jackson Merrill, who had a great rookie season and had a little bit of a sophomore slump. And then 2 guys that I believe in Luis Arraez, who has 3 straight batting titles before not winning last year, where the National League batting title, Trey Turner, had the lowest batting average by a batting champion since the 1930s. And Corbin Carroll, who just missed my list last year. I put Adley Rutschman on over him, and I've been sick about it all year because even though Corbin Carroll doesn't have age completely on his side, the speed and power combination, the way he plays the game, it's on par with a future Hall of Famer. He's still on pace to hit my numbers. I know it might not be on pace to hit all of Jake's higher metrics, but he's someone that is a true young superstar in the game that I really enjoy to watch, has the speed power combo, and I think deserves a little bit more love in the future Hall of Fame debate than he was getting early on in his career because of his age. We just saw Aaron Judge defy the odds of age. We've seen other guys who have came up late still be able to put together Hall of Fame careers. Corbin Carroll has a chance to be one of those guys. Now, Jake, out of your 3 guys there, Elly, Jackson, and Jackson, what do you have to say with those darts? Why do you feel good about those guys?
So Elly De La Cruz, all these guys, again, I'll preface it with the throwing darts. They're young. It's the projectability. That's where we're at in this stage of their career. Elly, projectable for 2 automatics, actually, still on pace in stolen bases and runs. He also has secondary qualifiers he's on pace for in hits and homers. After him, we'll just go age-wise here. He's 23. Jackson Merrill is 22, who Dom alluded to, great rookie year, kind of down second year. Still on pace for 3 secondary qualifiers, hits, homers, and RBIs. He would just need 2 of those 3 to become a Hall of Famer for me, but the guy's 22. And then Churio, a newcomer to my list. And the whole reason is because he's 21 years old, and he's actually on pace for automatic qualifiers in hits, homers, runs, RBI, and stolen bases, purely based on his age. Now, is Jackson Churio going to hit all 5 of those as automatic qualifiers? Odds are really high that the answer to that question is no, or he's going to be one of the greatest players ever. But that's why hype with rookies is always so high. Just in general, is like, oh, the sky's the limit. The possibilities are endless. He started so young, so on and so forth. But even with that being said, he makes my list because, yes, he is that young. Yes, he's that projectable, but he did so well so early in his career with back-to-back seasons that he made my list as, one of my last 5-ish guys. That's one of those of, I'm going to throw a dart now and look really smart, if time goes on and he continues to climb the rungs on our tiers.
Yeah, I considered Churio. I really did. The reason why I didn't is usually for someone to get in 2 years into the league, they have to put together an MVP caliber season, like Bobby Witt Jr. did last year. That's kind of what I look for, is like something that isn't just on pace because of age, but is on pace because of peak, because of great performance, which Corbin Carroll has had those seasons, and we have not seen it from Churio or Merrill just yet. Ellie De La Cruz is really interesting to me. I don't know what it is about him. I love watching him play, but he's someone that I have PTSD for that archetype of player, and the strikeout numbers are just atrocious. That I won't be shocked if he burns out, but I also won't be shocked if he's able to put together a 300 career with the pace that he's currently on. So I like those 3 guys. I consider those 3 guys, but they didn't make it because I am a little bit more bird in the hand than projectability, at least at first. And then I'm willing to wiggle with guys like Bobby Witt Jr., Julio Rodriguez, Gunnar Henderson, who have all put together MVP type seasons, have some hardware. Those are the guys that are a little higher for me, and you as well. But now we have these tiers kind of mixed out. Is there anyone you feel like needs to be moved up or down? Do you feel pretty good about how we did here?
I think we both conceded a couple players here and there in some tiers. So I think we're pretty close to agreement with, you may feel 1 or 2 maybe lower, and I feel 1 or 2 maybe higher, both ways. I will add here in this throwing darts section, you could have easily convinced me to put in Luis Ariz instead of Jackson Merrill. Like, that's like my 50-51. Like, you could have easily done that. How close? I want to know how close for you then Churio and Carroll is. Were they 50-51 for you?
I'd say it's more like 60-40 right now. I definitely think that Churio could pass Carroll with a couple more years if Carroll doesn't keep up his current pace. But I think Carroll is noticeably ahead right now in terms of Hall of Fame pace. Luis Ariz is one of my guys, man. I love the old school slap ball hitter. He won 3 straight batting titles in an era where not a lot of guys hit 300, and he has a 300 career batting average. I'm interested to see where he signs in free agency. I mean, that bat'll play anywhere, but just like what team will value him and where they'll put him in the lineup, I think is really telling for his career in terms of trying to hit the rule of 2,000, maybe even 3,000 career hits, because he's a 180 to 200 hit machine. So he's really, really exciting to me and could be one of those sneaky new age candidates. He stayed on at the end of my list, even though the WAR total's not there. He doesn't play good defense. He's just such a great hitter that I could see him racking up a fourth, a fifth, maybe a sixth batting title throughout the rest of his career, and getting in a more in a less traditional way. So I think that I agree with you. We both gave a little bit here. I think this is the most like healthy, constructive Hall of Fame conversation we've had in some time. We didn't talk much hobby in this. There are a lot of great rookie cards and autographs here, some more expensive than others. If there was one or two players that you don't have the rookie cards or autographs of that you'd be targeting here into next year, that you want to get, that you want to prioritize getting, who are you looking at in terms of values or guys that you don't have in your collection?
Man, that's a great question. Ironically, I don't have a Chris Sale autograph because I've been holding out, hoping to find the right one in a Braves uni. He does have a 2013 5-star in his White Sox uni, and I have collected that Hall of Fame autograph set, so I may have to pick that one up. He definitely jumps to mind. I like some of the sort of post-hype guys, maybe, meaning that like Jose Ramirez or Lindor. I don't have rookies or autographs for either one, and they're not talked about in the same way as a Aaron Judge or a Shohei Ohtani right now, or even on the opposite end of the spectrum, a Bobby Witt Jr. They're not talked about the same way in the hobby. So maybe somebody like that, one of those guys. I'll add one more, and it's just because I did like the guy, and I think in terms of, in my eyes, borderline Hall of Famers who could change that narrative. Kutch, I think it's a good time to buy Kutch, if you're going to buy Kutch, because if he doesn't announce a retirement tour this year, let's just say he signs again, doesn't announce a retirement tour, good time to buy him, before he has that retirement tour, and then hits another window again in that, that 5-year gap. So I don't have his rookie or his autograph, and he doesn't have a ton of autographs out there either. So if he did hit the Hall, he is one that may see a bump in terms of a modern guy that hasn't signed a lot. Who are some of those names for you that you're kind of eyeing that you don't have from this list?
Yeah, so I've actually done a great job with my collection since we started this exercise, and I've like set these markers of what I look for a Hall of Famer, and I've been doing a good job over the last couple of years checking off the base rookies of a lot of these guys. A challenge that us as Hall of Fame prospectors and collectors are going to get into in the future with guys like Churio and Merrill and stuff is tops and fanatics are looking for money. So what they're doing with these high profile rookies is they're putting them in Series 2, which is the hardest product to sell. Everyone's excited for baseball to be back for Series 1. Update has all the players in their new uniforms and the big rookies and whatever. Series 2 is a hard sell, so they put guys like Jackson Churio and Jackson Merrill in there as short prints. So their first flagship rookie card is a short print that sells for a lot of money, but also doesn't have a Topps Gold parallel, doesn't have a Topps Black parallel, doesn't have any of those other parallels that people like to collect, Independence Day, etc. So it'll be interesting to see how those rookie cards, like the Bobby Witt Jr. SP, is a card that's been on my eBay watch list forever. I can't justify spending that much for a not PSA 10, because I don't care about the 10, but even in a 9 or an 8, it's a lot of money for a base rookie card. So that's a challenge that we're going to have. So eventually I'm going to have to pull the trigger on one of those guys at some point. Bobby Witt Jr. continues his pace. He's one of my favorite players to watch in baseball. I'll have to pull that trigger. But
he's awesome.
He is. But the guys that I'm more interested in, I'm excited that you went in the middle too. McCutchen, I have the base rookie card. I'd like to get the gold. But Christian Yelich, Matt Olson, Kyle Schwarber, those guys that are like on not necessarily the borderline of the Hall of Fame, but like the borderline of people collecting them as Hall of Famers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's where I need to fill it out more, because the guys that I feel really good about, the guys that are in those first 5 tiers, I have their base rookie cards. I have the golds for a lot of those guys. But when you start getting lower than that, that's where I really need to start attacking and filling those holes now. So by the time other Hall of Fame programs are talking about Christian Yelich as a Hall of Fame candidate in a couple years, I already have my stuff. I don't do a lot of autos for the newer guys unless it's someone that has like a personal connection to me. A lot of the modern guys, their autographs are really expensive compared to like the guys that signed way less and are dead for a long time that you can get. So it's tough for me to spring on the autos sometimes. But I think there's still a lot of guys that, like I said, are not big on the Hall of Fame radar that you can get autos and rookie cards and parallels of now. So when they get that perceived future Hall of Fame bump or the actual Hall of Fame bump, you have a great value on your hands. So if there's a guy that plays for your favorite team, you like the way they play, they're on track to hit your personal metrics, go out there, buy the rookie cards, the flagship guys, everything pretty much before 2020, all the 2019 and back stuff, the guys have a true flagship rookie card. So you can just go back and get the flagship rookie card. If you don't care about a 10, you can get it. Some of these guys that are lower profile in the 10 are still affordable if you care about that thing, because the 10 will be the perceived card in the future for the set registries and all those things. But yeah, it's great to collect these guys because me and Jake both have spreadsheets and counters of our Hall of Fame rookie cards post-war and our Hall of Fame autographs. And it's not just nice to pick up someone that's already in the Hall of Fame and pay the Hall of Fame price, but it's really nice when you have a card or an autograph in your PC and it gets to get moved over and added to your Hall of Fame rookie checklist or your Hall of Fame autograph checklist. So that's something we didn't touch on a lot today because we were kind of melding our battling Hall of Fame views together for this tier list, but it's something that coincides directly with how we feel about these players and their trajectories.
Final thing I'll add there, as long-term collectors of the Hall of Fame, it's smart to be strategic about when you buy these things. We talk about the window and that kind of stuff. I don't own a Ronald Acuna Jr. autograph. I don't own a Vladdy Jr. autograph. I don't own an Ohtani. I don't own a Judge, right? I would argue that it's the wrong time to buy those, okay? If I'm going to be in this long-term and I want to get those guys someday, pending them being Hall of Famers and all that kind of stuff, but now's the wrong time. I would rather spend $150, $200 on like a Dizzy Dean, on a Joe Gordon, on guys that are tougher to get. They're autographed. There are less of them out there. They're already in the Hall. I would rather do that than buy those guys right now. But in terms of prospecting modern guys, you should target the guys Dom and I are talking about when it's the right time to buy them if you're believing in their Hall of Fame candidacy, right? If you're in this a long term, there is a right time and a wrong time to buy these if you're trying to be strategic about it, if you want to stretch your dollar as far as you can as a collector. But Dom, I really enjoyed this exercise. Thank you for putting together the tier list and having this cordial discussion with me. Now, as this releases, the next thing that will be on our radar for cracking Cooperstown is we'll be talking about this year's Writers' Ballot very, very soon. I'm sure Dom and I will have plenty of fun things that we don't agree on to talk about for that. But until next time, guys, keep collecting and God bless.